Hey guys, Sean with Firearms here. So we're out at the range today, and we wanted to cover a couple how-tos on something that is commonly done, but we still get a lot of kind of questions on it. So what we want to talk about today is depending on where you're at and what you want to call it, what we call it is the tactical reload and or an administrative reload. Essentially the difference between that versus like a speed or emergency reload is with the tactical or administrative reload, we're essentially deciding that we're going to reload. We still have ammunition in this magazine, but we want to top it off. So like for instance, you just got done in a gunfight, you got a little lull, either that threat is taken care of and or you know, we've got space and time, maybe you're behind cover. It's usually a good idea to top off your firearm, and you know, if you're going to engage again in a fight, it'd be best to engage with as many rounds as you can in your gun, right? So let's say you poke around a corner, you got some shots, threats at a distance, whatever, you come back around behind cover. Before you poke out again, it might be a great idea, you know, depending on the situation, to top off your gun. Or if you just got done with the threat, you don't know if there's any other threats, whatever might be going on, you might want to top off your gun, okay? So there's a couple key points about this. There are multiple ways to do it, right? There isn't just one way that's better than any other way, or one way that should only be done. Keep in mind that it's going to be really kind of dependent on the situations and your skills, as well as like your kit setup. But the couple factors and the things that we want to focus on when it comes down to it is we want to have this gun down for as little bit of time as possible. What I mean by that is theoretically, yeah, I could just take this magazine out, I could stow it, and then I can grab for my next magazine and I could load it up. But the problem is that entire time at this point, I only have one round left in the chamber. So if something were to pop off right now, let's say I just had bad judgment and this wasn't a good time to do this, all I'd have is that one round left for the rest of my life, right? So what tends to be a lot better option is to utilize one of the other methods. So something like the L-shaped or the high index, which is going to allow you to change the magazines in the gun quickly, minimizing the time that this rifle only has one round in it, okay? So first one that I want to talk about would be the L shape. Now, before we do that, another little key point that I feel like is very important and a lot of people overlook is prioritizing which magazine you're utilizing for this reload, okay? So what I mean by that is if I'm going to do my tactical reload, I don't want to necessarily grab for this guy or this guy back here if I have other magazines here. Typically what we want to try to do is access, because we have time, access the least, like the hardest one to get to, so the least accessible one. So for me being a right-handed shooter, under an emergency reload, this one is the hardest one for me to get to. So I want to utilize this one for my tactical reload. The reason for that is if I utilize this one, which is my primary off of this chest rig, or this one off of my belt, which is kind of my primary go-to, I'm replacing a full magazine with a partial magazine minus however many shots that I took. And then now I'm going to replace that and put it right back where I want to go to. So if I end up in an emergency reload where I have to reload because I'm out of bullets, my instincts is to go to my favorite magazines, and I'm going to be just putting in a partial mag at that point. So it's a little bit better if you have the time to go for a least accessible magazine. If you're carrying in your pockets, maybe it's that pocket that's all the way around, really hard to get to. Or if you're wearing like chest rig or anything like that, for a right-handed shooter, maybe it's that far right one. For a left-handed, maybe it's that far left one. But we want to make sure we prioritize what one we're grabbing, okay? So for the purpose of this drill, we'll do the L shape first. It's usually a good idea when we're going to be doing this reload, because again, we've made this mental decision that it's safe. I'm going to bring that rifle up into an area to where I can control it. If I'm behind cover anyways, I don't want to necessarily be doing anything crazy like that behind the cover. So I'm going to grab my least accessible magazine for right now. I'm going to grab this guy. And what I'm going to do is create an L. There's a reason why it's called an L shape, and it's because you are creating an L. And what you're doing is sandwiching those two magazines together, okay? Now, there are other methods that you can utilize with this. I personally prefer to keep a finger pinched in between, because that allows me to have far better control over these magazines versus when I'm just smushing the magazines together. I've just noticed when after I've done my reload and I'm going to this part here, trying to transfer it off of that mag and back, it's a little bit more clumsy. So personally, what I like to do is I keep my index finger, I pinch it. So now when I insert that magazine, I've still got good control over that magazine here. So once I've done that, I've pinched, reloaded, gave him that real hard push, made sure I got that click, give it a tug. I'm gonna take that magazine and I'm gonna stow it back into that spot that I took it from, okay? At that point, now I'm ready to go if I need to. I can re-engage, do whatever I need to do, okay? So that's the L shape, again, creating an L. The other method is gonna be more of your high index, right? So I'm still gonna be grabbing for this least accessible magazine. When I pull it out, what I'm gonna end up doing is utilizing my index finger to index nice and high on this other magazine. So when I pull it out, I end up having this standoff, right? This magazine just came out. So now when I go to insert this magazine, notice how this is clearing. There's no hitting or anything going on. It's gonna make it a whole lot easier for me to get that magazine in, give it a tug, I'm good to go. Now I can rotate and I'm good, okay? Now if I have to reload off of my belt, it's the same exact principles. I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna utilize my favorite reload. For me, I prefer the high index. I'm gonna do my switch, get that tug, that click, I'm gonna put it back, and now I'm good to go to fight. So those are the two primary, most common. There are other methods. The goal here is to find what works the best for you based on your kit, based on your abilities, like your dexterity and all that. And then practice, 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 because all of this is gonna be super clumsy if you've never done it before. We wanna make sure that this becomes super fluid and easy, because even though we're minimizing the time that this gun only has one round in it, the entire time that I have this magazine in my hand, I'm gonna be less effective if something does pop off. So the sooner I can get this out, if it's my L shape, the faster I'm gonna be able to get back into that fight, okay? So a little something to think about when it comes to that tactical or administrative reload.